So I think let's get started on this Eclipse OpenJ9 community call for July 27th. We have a lightning talk scheduled for the start of it, and thanks, Oscar, for joining. We'll maybe pass it right over to you if you're ready.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to share my screen. Could you guys see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, okay. So today I'm going to give you guys a quick demo on how to use TRSS to triage problem as a developer. So I'm picking this issue as an example here. This issue is opened 5 days ago in OpenJ9 repo, and it was opened by Jason. So if you are a developer, how you can use TRSS to help you in this case? So first of all, you want to copy the test name. It's share class API, and from the issue description, you can see that it's from an internal build, and it's JDK 11 and running on PPC 64LE. So you go to the internal TRSS machine, TRSS server, and you are looking for the JDK 11 and the internal Jenkins here. And then you want to find a build that contains PPC 64LE. You can click on the build number here to check if it contains. If it doesn't contain, you can just simply pass. It's the Windows only build. The most recent build that contains PPC 64LE is the build number 266. Once you see there's a PPC 64LE here, you can do the search here, search output in current build, and paste the test name here, and do a search. This search query will take 4 to 5 seconds because it's searching through all of the test output. So that's around 9,000 results here. So we got it. The first result is the share class API, the test. It matches the issue description here, but we might want to fully verify this is the one we're looking for. So we can click on the second link, the second icon here. It's called Deep History. And this page, you can check title here. It's saying that it's test list 1 and the build number is 37, and it matches the issue description. So the current fitting test result is the one we're looking for. There's another way you can verify this, is that you can click on the icon in action column here. If it's a functional build, you will be directed to the JUnit test report. Otherwise, you will be directed to Jenkins link. And in here, you can do all of the stuff. You can check the console output. You can check the test result. You can see the Artifactory here. And go back. If when you do the search, if the result is a pass, you can also click on the deep history to see the full history of that task. The reason why that might be happening is that the issue is, for example, weeks ago, and the current build is a pass, but the issue is like describing the previous version. So you need to click on the deep history to locate to the right bug you're looking for. And once you confirm this is the one you're looking for, you can go back to the parent folder here. And in this page, you can check the test across all platforms here. So in this test, in this build, and it's running on other platform as well. And you can see that it's a platform specific issue here. It's only occurring on PPC 64LE. And also you can do the deep history here to check the full history. And also you can click on the possible issues here. It will do a Git search across different GitHub repos and finding all of the related issue that might help the developers. Or you can check. You can click on the fail test, the fail status, the red one here. It will direct you to the console output. It's fairly long. And at this page, there are two icons at the top right. One is the Jenkins link, the one we have checked before, and the other one is the Artifactory link. It will direct you to the files that get archived in this build. So it's pretty convenient for developer to find all of the links here. There's another way that developer can do to locate to the right task they are looking for is to go to the grid view grid here. And we go back to the issue here. It's in the test is the PBC64LE and running, and it's a extended system test. So you exclude other platforms, and here you locate the extended system, the first row, the test target. Basically, the first row is the sanity test. The second row is the extended, and the third is special. Okay. You click on this, and you can direct it to the same page. In case you didn't see the share class API, you can do this filter in test name. Do a search here, and it will show you all of the related tests that might help you with this issue. And also so my demo is just you guys can fully use the functionality as the full the all platforms and the deep history, possible issues, and Jenkins link, and the history of this test. That might help us in this case. So yeah, that's all. I'm gonna demo. Any questions?
That's great. I see that from this perspective, when we're showing this, we're using the internal or a TRSS instance that's monitoring multiple Jenkins servers. So the point of this being that this service allows a developer to be able to see results from multiple locations and aggregates them into kind of a single view. I will mention that we're actively improving this tool all the time. And I really want to thank you, Oscar, for putting a lot of effort into getting some of these features live. So thanks very much, and thanks for the demo. And I think that Dan may have rejoined us. Is that true? I see him on
Yes,
the top.
I was going to say I'm here. I just couldn't unmute for a minute.
Okay. So we're going to hand it back to you. If there's no other questions or items from people for Oscar. We started late, Dan, but we thought we better start.
No, I appreciate that a lot. It was one of those unfortunate things where the laptop crashes and decides to install updates when it comes back.
Nice. Okay, handing it back to you, Dan.
Let me just see if I can sharing again after a couple of weeks vacation. It's going to be one of those days. Hopefully everybody can see the OpenJ9 agenda now. At the lightning talk, we'll take a quick look at the user-raised issues that have come in. I had checked this prior to the meeting, and I think there was only one that had come in the last little bit, and that's the order of super interface initialization is strange is the concern. It's something I can take a look at because I've been poking in this area recently anyway, so I should be able to get a response into that in the next week. Skip over the download stats. And the 0.27 release, I guess, is the next item on our list. I'm moving a little fast today, so if there is something we want to come back to, stop me, and happy to jump back to it. But I just want to make sure that we're a little cognizant of time, given how late we started. So with the 0.27 release, it looks like the last update here is that GA starts July 20 and likely not complete until the week of July 26. So does somebody have the status on where we are with that release?
So the OpenJ9 release is done last week. The tags are created and the release page is updated. What we're waiting for is IBM to publish some builds. So that's in progress.
Do you have a date on that?
Not exactly, no. I believe we're running some builds today, but I'm not sure. There's a problem with the publish job. Maybe Adam can say more about that.
Yeah, we should have builds today, but there's an issue with the publish script. So I've looked at it a couple times before, still haven't figured it out. I have the green light to publish them. So when I did the M2 builds, I did it by hand, which is a pain. So while the builds are running, I'll look at that script again and see if I can figure it out. But I mean, they should be up today in some form or another, and then I'm not sure if we can talk about the official launch date or not, because we're still waiting for stuff to go out about announcements and stuff.
So once the builds are available, can links to those be shared in the OpenJ9 Slack?
Yes. So there'll be GitHub links similar to the links we shared for the M2 builds.
Can we share them though? Is the OpenJ9 Slack tied to Eclipse?
So we did share the M2 builds.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, I think we're okay to have somebody talk about the fact that somebody has made builds available elsewhere. I don't see an issue with that.
Is the API going to be available soon, or is that?
We're working on it. We're hoping it's soon. We're just testing out the changes to have, because the vendor has changed and stuff like that, and the binary names. So
GitHub links today, API later.
Yeah. Website should be Tuesday, from my understanding. Adopt OpenJDK has said they would. It sounds like they'll copy the binaries into their repositories so that they can serve them up as well for temporary, like for at least this release. So I have to connect with John Oliver about how they're going to do that, because they'll need to accept the changes I'm making as well to allow for other vendors variants. I have to connect with him on that. And I think they're going to put banners up on the site pointing them at the IBM website once it's available. Because Adopt OpenJDK is not bound by the Eclipse Oracle stuff.
All right. Thank you for that update, and please do let us know when the builds are available. We can start read about that from the OpenJ9 Twitter account as well, and there had been questions there, so I think it'll be good to have them.
So while I think of it, I think everybody at IBM has the day off next Tuesday. So don't expect people to be on this call next week.
It might make sense to cancel next week's then. But why don't we discuss that when we hit the scheduling for the next one at the end of the meeting?
Will someone write a blog post as well for where to find stuff and kind of all of this that's been summarized?
I'm guessing you're asking an OpenJ9 blog post?
Uh-huh.
I haven't heard about that one. I know there's going to be IBM stuff going out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, something to consider.
Right.
Blog site is also not an Eclipse Foundation property. Just as a reminder.
It's a great call out, Shelley. It would be good to get something up that we can point to, something a little more longer lived than Twitter updates and Slack messages. For the next release we have coming up, the 0.28 release, we are rapidly coming up on the code split. I look at the release plan. When I looked this morning, there were 130-ish items in there, which seems fairly high given how close we are to the code split. Are we still on track to meet that code split date?
I don't think so. I believe there's still a number of outstanding issues related to method handles that need to be resolved. We haven't enabled method handles by default for Java 17 yet. We have enabled it for 16, and there's a number of failures. I think Toby could comment himself, but I heard him mention earlier there's like 5 core issues that need to be resolved, and then some other intermittent issues as well.
Yeah, I think essentially what's going to determine releasing is the method handle progress. We're looking at the Java JDK 16 status with OpenJDK method handles enabled. We're seeing a lot of intermittent failures, tend to show up in the non-x86 platforms. This is in addition to the 4 known issues that we've excluded from JDK 17, all of which need to be addressed before JDK 17 itself can be considered stable. So I think it's a matter of how quickly we can address these issues. Given the code split of August 9, that's about 2 weeks. I think that's fairly aggressive. Certainly by next week we'll have a better idea, but at this point I think that's a little too close.
Particularly considering that nobody's going to be working Monday or Tuesday next week.
Yeah.
So let's dig a little bit more into the method handle support. The last time I was here, we had talked about the performance, and I've missed the last 2 calls, so I'm sure there's been some updates here. But we had talked about the performance being quite below expectations. Has that performance gap been bridged or at least been quantified in terms of typical application development, so Lambda heavy workloads?
So all of the performance testing is still based on the Nashorn benchmarks, because these benchmarks kind of accentuate the delta. There are intentions to run more traditional Java workloads and a more varied set of performance testing in the future, but currently all the effort is still with the Nashorn benchmarks. In recent weeks, the delta has reduced. There are some specific cases where the gap is really large in certain subsets of the benchmarks, but overall the gap is getting smaller, and the JIT has identified some of the major causes for the regressions, and so they're confident that they can reduce this further. But yes, we don't have extensive performance testing on some of the more conventional workloads.
We have some Bumblebench benchmarks from Lambda when we first did the Lambda work, and I think there's been more that's been created over the years since then. Those would be a better target to ensure that we have the right set of things for what people will typically be running. I'm a little concerned that if we're chasing Nashorn performance is definitely something we need to do, but the set of handles and the patterns used by Nashorn and the amount of use of mutable call site with updates really dominates Nashorn, and so I would expect a very different performance profile from Nashorn than we would get from standard Lambda benchmarks. And so we may have an unrealistic view of what the gap is here, or maybe chasing the wrong, or prioritizing the wrong things.
Yeah, the thinking is that the Nashorn benchmarks will expose the glaring deficiencies, since it uses method handles heavily. So the issues we had where the transitions, the unnecessary transitions to the interpreter, those show up a lot in the Nashorn benchmarks. So it makes it very clear where the low-hanging fruit is. So that's why it was chosen as the starting point. But I agree. Once the delta gets smaller, we should probably shift to something more conventional. The challenge is that the people doing the performance testing and the people doing the development are the same. So that kind of there's a resourcing constraint as well that we have to take into account there.
Yeah, it becomes the challenge, and the concern I have is that if we are chasing Nashorn, there's the obvious low-hanging fruit of we're spending too much time in the interpreter, and that's going to be the same, regardless of what kind of primitive handles you're running. You're spending a lot of time doing those transitions in and out to make the calls. But once those are resolved, the rest of that code may behave very differently. And so we may have the wrong view, and it will make, without having run Lambda heavy benchmarks, we may not have the data we need to make a ship or not ship decision.
Right. So yeah, we can definitely pass this message along to the JIT team that this is, running the Lambda heavy benchmarks is a requirement for, to ensure that we are meeting the necessary performance characteristics that we want. I'm not sure that they have completed addressing the JIT to interpreter transitions in all cases. So I think there's still some work underway there. There's also likely some functional work that needs to be addressed as well. So there are a few things that are on their plate. I guess I'm saying, yeah, where all the other things you mentioned are important, but there's a finite amount of cycles that everyone has to invest in.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the key point there that once we've done the INL transformers, we should be careful about chasing the Nashorn numbers because they may not be the essential items to ship.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, so method handles are definitely the long pole issue in shipping 17. There's still, 130 items in here. Are the other major features for 17 and major pieces of work on target for that code split date? Is it only method handles that's going to cause us to miss that code split?
Yeah, so we have there's the FFI stuff and there's the vector API stuff, both of which are incubator. So they're not necessary for releasing JDK 17. There's a few new method handle adapters that we'll need for 17 that we can, basically we'll get for free once we enable the new OpenJDK method handles. So those kind of go together. Otherwise, there really isn't anything that that can't be moved out. So I'd say the method handle work is really the big blocker, unless we get another test failure that that is a must fix. But from a feature perspective, it's the method handle work that has to be done.
What about the floating point, Jep?
As far as I know, the floating point JEP, are you talking about the strict FP
Yeah, I thought that required some changes.
I thought we always supported that.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
My understanding was the VM always applied strict semantics. It's only
But does the
JIT
JIT?
code that we could relax them. So that's the key question.
Okay, so I can double check there. My understanding was that we were always using strict FP semantics, but I can double check.
There's probably tests that would need to be updated that might allow non-strict float. They would have to be updated to ensure that we're always using strict floats.
I would expect those would be a switch from non-strict to strict. Those tests would continue to pass. They just wouldn't be testing what they should be.
Right, that's what I mean. They wouldn't help us ensure that we're always strict.
My point, Pete?
Yeah.
But that any testing that we got from the OpenJDK test suites or other suites that IBM may have access to would certainly be validating the strictness requirements. So while these tests should be updated in the future, that may not block the release. Does that match your understanding?
Makes sense. If we're going to pay attention to some of those internal test suites, I think there's quite a few failures.
Right. Are there other things on this list that are going to be long poles for being able to ship 17?
Are there other JEPs that need attention in the list?
Vector API, foreign linker API.
The only other one is the security manager deprecation JEP. We're failing a couple tests, but that's actively being investigated.
Sealed classes is complete.
Yeah, there was no change from JDK 16.
It would be good to do a pass through this list and close out things that are already complete, just to give us a better view of where we are in terms of being shippable. Toby, Peter, if I could ask you guys to do a pass from the VM, and I don't know if Daryl's on, to do a pass for the JIT.
Sure.
Given we're 10 minutes over due to me starting things late, is there anything else we need to discuss for the 028 release? Okay, then I'd like to go fairly quickly through the other updates here and only call out things that are critical for this week. Is there anything that we need to update around adopt? Shelley's still on, yep.
Nothing necessarily to call out. We're trying to get the primary platforms released this week. It's been a long haul to get through the TCKs on this very first time of lifting them up, but we're getting within reach of the big three platforms being released. And then secondaries will follow.
Shelley? Adam, is there anything that needs to be called out around machines and infrastructure?
Not really. We're working to get KVM on that new AArch machine, so we'll have multiple instances rather than one big one, so that's good. But Raj is off this week, so we won't have it for a little while yet.
Thanks, Adam. Devin, is there anything that needs to be called out for CMake?
No, things are still kind of progressing nicely with the AArch support, and I'm looking at some problems with the ZOS builds for mixed pointers, but nothing particularly notable.
Marius, is there anything that needs to be called out for JIT server? I don't see Marius on the call, so we'll skip over that. Similarly with MicroJIT. Toby, is there anything you want to call out for snapshot restore?
No, nothing recent.
Cheng, is there anything you want to call out for Panama?
Not much. We're still waiting for the OpenJK Meta 292 merge to Java 7, and then we're going to start working on the opcode, the prototype, and get started with the primitive type. We're going to have a meeting with the JIT tomorrow to discuss a couple of the JIT related issues because we need JIT support. That's everything.
Thanks, Cheng. Peter, is there anything you wanted to update on the spell checking tool?
No, I haven't seen any new updates. Last I heard, the tool's not ready yet.
And then you raised the point that all the IBM contributors will be off on August the 3rd. Is this something we already want to skip a week and we'll have our next meeting August 10th?
Makes sense to me. You people who from Red Hat can decide if they want to have a meeting without us.
So given our small numbers, I think it makes sense to skip at that point then. So we'll reschedule this to August the 10th, and we'll skip next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.